It's February and we are back again with another edition of Anita Says, a monthly podcast about the influences and trends that shape the world of Indian dance. Let's begin with a quote. Actually, two quotes. Listen carefully for the first one. People who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. Let me tell you this again. People who say it cannot be done should not interrupt those who are doing it. So says Irish playwright and critic George Bernard Shaw. And here's another one. If you hate a person, then you are already defeated by them. This was said by Chinese philosopher Confucius. So think about that as I begin the February edition of Anita Says. Against the awe-inspiring backdrop of the MahaKumbh, an event that occurs every 144 years when the stars align in a very special way, Prayagraj, formerly Allahabad, witnessed the largest human congregation on earth. Millions and millions of devotees gathered to pray and plunge into the meeting point of the sacred rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati. This created a visual canvas that no set designer or scenographer could ever hope to emulate, a powerful and undeniable testament to the power of faith. Dancers and musicians were part of the daily celebrations. The experience has been described by every artist as, quote, deeply moving, extremely humbling, and life-altering. Shovana, Narayan and Geeta, Chandran, whose dance ensembles were invited to perform last month, shared their individual perspectives on the impact of being a part of this human tidal wave. Shovana Narayan says, quote, the atmosphere was charged with 1,000,000 hearts drenched in devotion. I felt a powerful current of energy as I dipped into the waters, end quote. Geeta Chandran says, the Kumbh makes you deeply aware of your own insignificance, both on earth and in the cosmos. A moment that shakes one to the deepest core. So let's move now to more mundane but frequently occurring topics. Who are today's new age choreographers? They are India's photographers. Aggressive and pushy, you see them at award functions, directing the guests on stage to stand in a certain way, look a certain way, even asking the chief guest to repeat the act of giving away the award for the perfect shot. I've watched them ruin many important moments by being so intrusive. Now, these photographers fall in different categories. There are the wedding photographers and the party photographers. There are the film photographers. But let's talk about the dance and music lensmen, because they are not that much better behaved. During a performance, photographers from legacy media arrive right in the middle, walk right to the center of the hall in front of everyone, and then proceed to take that perfect shot that they need for the next day morning papers. Digital advancement has curbed flash photography somewhat, but it has not taught photographers better stage manners. I've seen many climbing the stairs by the side of the stage, sometimes even clicking from the wings as they try to capture what in their eyes is that very unique moment. The constant click, 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 click of the digital shutter is so distracting. The catch-22 situation is that we dancers need them to record our performances and make us look better than reality, with photoshopping for social media. You're listening to Anita Says, a monthly podcast on Indian dance. Paisa Vasool, getting our money's worth. For anyone who has watched the Australian Open tennis tournament last month, the rude and uncouth behavior of the crowd was truly shocking. When tennis icon Novak Djokovic retired hurt during the semi-finals, the crowd started heckling and booing him. For someone who has won this Grand Slam 10 times already and is considered a GOAT, the greatest of all time in his sport, this kind of audience behavior was sharply criticized. Were they disappointed that the match was not completed? Did the audience want a terrific five-setter to satisfy the hefty ticket prices? Did they not care about the health condition of Djokovic? To retire hurt was the decision of the champion so as to not aggravate his injury. Now, what about a dancer? Many of us perform even while injured, adjusting our bodies or the choreography to help us just get through the performance. However, we know the moment on stage or before when it becomes impossible to continue. Almost a decade ago, a celebrated Bharatanatyam dancer appeared at the Music Academy's annual January festival with such a bad hip injury that she could hardly stand. Instead of telling the organizers ahead of time and pulling out so that her slot could be replaced by another artist, she decided to go ahead with the show. And what a sad and disappointing evening it was. I was in the audience, getting increasingly uncomfortable. After the show, there were many who were openly angry at being cheated of an evening of good dance. However, nobody demanded their money back like the Aussie tennis crowd did. But there are questions and situations that athletes and performers share. The emotional and ethical dimensions of our profession. All we can do is give our best. To retire hurt or to continue during a match or a performance is entirely up to the individual. In sports, there is a winner and a loser. In dance, there is no clear decision, only what the artist and the audience share and feel. I returned to the performance space after a very long hiatus. Mind and body felt very different, heavier, not in weight, but in the way I walked and moved. My normally excellent balance was off. I was swaying unexpectedly. My movement from the floor level to the upright position was not smooth. Stamina was poor. My normal elephantine memory was failing me. My concentration was off course. I felt like a novice, looking at the script and memorizing my lines all over again. It was very frustrating, and it also got me thinking. A woman's body goes through so much, not just in the teenage years and the time of maturation, but also the rite of passage of becoming a mother and watching her body change right before her eyes. Peri and postmenopause is yet another whammy that hits us like a hammer. Mood swings, sleep apnea, hair fall, weight gain, everything that dancers are terrified of. And we are on stage through it all for everyone to see and judge. No matter what today's politically correct mantra dictates about not body-shaming large women and embracing their appearance as she is, to disregard fashion forecasting, a woman who has given birth has to reckon with the changing contours of her breasts, waist, hips, and thighs. There is something very radical that occurs during the formation of a life within you, and it is very, very rare that a new mother can return to be fighting fit and performance ready within a year. There is also the inevitable march of time because you cannot dance at 60 the way you did at 50 or the way you did at 40. There are, of course, some rare examples. Urmila Satyanarayana and her 32-year-old daughter look like sisters. There are others, of course, who look like they stepped out of magazine covers, but on the whole, our Indian Ajanta hips and rounded breasts reveal the advancing march of mother time. I just wish, there was a guide for dancers with Indian genes to maintain optimum health and positivity through careers that now stretch beyond our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. You're listening to Anita Says, a podcast about Indian dance worldwide. Where is a dancer's source of energy? Award-winning Hollywood actress Zoe Saldana remarked that she would always think of herself and hold her body as if she were a ballet dancer long after she had stopped dancing. The terrific discipline that dance gives a human body is still being assessed. I watched a multi-generational celebration that was like a flash mob at a private event. An audience of mostly dancers were listening to folklorist and storyteller Revati Shankaran, followed by musicians O.S. Arun. On my request, Arun concluded his concert with a Ras Leela. Spontaneously, Guru Chitra Vishweshwaran rose from her chair and was followed by 30 more dancers as they wove around a large tree in the open air, creating choreography on the spot and reveling in the moment. And what a moment it was! The non-dancers were all watching through their cameras, of course, capturing the moment that was unrehearsed and so joyous. A few days later, Chitra was chosen to receive the Diva Award for dance at a glamorous city event. When dance legends like her are remembered and honored, it is a good feeling because memory is fleeting and legacy disappears in a flash. In January, I watched another icon. Younger, but still an icon. Aditi Mangaldas, who looks so far away from her 65 years. As she twirled, lunged, crouched and navigated the vast Music Academy stage for her command performance in Chennai last month. In an ensemble work called Unwrapped, Aditi and her marvelously trained dancers and musicians delivered a standout show to a rapt audience who had not seen Kathak in this contemporary avatar. Faces wrapped in monotone beige silky cloth, inspired by the words of philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti, Aditi never looked out of place with her much younger colleagues. Her intellectual curiosity shone through at many sections, pushing the socially elite Chennai audiences to sit up and lean into the work. An intelligent Tarana Tillana finale in a more colorful traditional costume template was the placating piece for the invited guests who seemed a bit perturbed by the lack of ananda and color in the early sections. Over an extended phone conversation, Aditi shared how her top priority was to put 2 musicians on a monthly payroll, thereby ensuring that they attend rehearsal and class every single day. The presence and sound of live music in the daily Riyaz rehearsal process, she says, has been a crucial factor in her creative process. The well-knit, impeccably dressed and trained musical ensemble were totally at ease during the performance, walking into the dancer's space, standing behind Aditi and elaborating a raga while a seated Aditi interpreted the lyric. Aditi's fitness levels clearly shows a tremendous discipline that is ingrained in her sinews. She confesses that she's not a foodie, and that has certainly helped her health, energy levels, and weight control. On the suggestion of her son, she consumes only pomegranate and blueberries in the fruit category, cutting out every other fruit. On show day, 1 banana and a cup of tea with sugar is the only indulgence she allows herself. To clear her mind, she cleans her room, keeping only the costumes and notes needed for that particular show. No matter what the weather or the hour, Aditi is ready to tie her gungroos and get to the dance studio by 10 a.m. daily, waking up in the middle of the night to record an idea on her phone or write down a new rhythmic sequence in her notebook. This relentless woman is a creator 24/7. During the COVID lockdown, she shared training videos with a fitness expert as she and her team lifted heavy ropes and ran up and down the stairs to strengthen the core and leg muscles, vital for dancers. Yoga, kalari, meditation, contemporary movement classes, Aditi worked at improving the level of her company members ever since she was told by UK presenters, especially Farooq Chaudhary and Akram Khan, to tour overseas only with her classical solos because they felt that her company dancers were not on par with Aditi's movement quality. Working with Morag Days, the Scottish dramaturg, and visual artists from Europe, Italian lighting and Japanese costume designers who brought a fresh silhouette to her newer ideas, Aditi evolved amongst fierce criticism and resistance from the Kathak community. Turning 60 was a watershed moment when she says all the fights, fears, and faults fell away. I remember a heated debate over a decade ago in Delhi about the style of her presentation being not Kathak. But today, Aditi is a grandmother of 2 young toddlers and is a sought-after artist by both traditional and modern presenters. Ageless is a quality that is easily applied to her. The Akram Khan company, closely associated with Aditi, seems to be everywhere. Like a hydra, the gigantic imagination of its founder has morphed into a global brand of extravagantly imagined and flawlessly executed stage productions. Now at the Joyce Theatre in New York City with Genesis, Generation of the Earth, and almost simultaneously in the Saudi Arabian desert oasis of Al Ula with a site-specific performance called Tikra, Night of Remembering. The good news is that several Bharatanatyam dancers led by an Akram favorite Maithili Prakash are now guest artists in the AKDC fold. The latest to join are Jyotsna Jagannathan, Kavya Ganesh, Ranjit Vijna and Divya Ravi. With major music inputs by vocalist Aditya Prakash, this large-scale production shared some enticing glimpses on Instagram that set the dance world buzzing. The inclusion of so many Bharatanatyam and Carnatic elements into Akram's productions could be attributed to his dance brother Bharatanatyam dancer Mavin Koo, who introduced the British dance sensation to the roots of Bharatanatyam through several visits to Tanjavur and other centers of tradition. It augurs well for the dancers to experience such a grand level of organization and management in a company that is a proverbial juggernaut. Working in the professional atmosphere of the Akram Khan company will perhaps open the India-based dancers' eyes to the possibility of how dance can be created, performed, sustained, and marketed as a global cultural export. Prayers and Pranam. Sobering news comes from Ahmedabad, where Kathak guru Kumudini Lakya is in deteriorating health. The announcement of the Padma Vibhushan Award came as she was lying in bed. While her family and students rejoiced, there is growing concern about the physical condition of this 95-year-old matriarch, whose mind is still sharp and active. India's second highest national honor could have come a bit sooner, while she was still in better health and able to travel to Delhi and receive the award from the President of India. But now, confined to her bed and awaiting the wedding of her grandson, Kumiben has not lost any of her spirit and ebullience. According to her senior student Rupanshi Kashyap, she is busy directing her daughter Juju Hattangadi with various responsibilities. A loud round of applause and a fervent prayer for this incredible daughter of India, unstoppable, unbreakable, and unforgettable. You're listening to Anita Says, a monthly podcast about the world of Indian dance. Congratulations to all the Padma awardees across so many creative fields: martial arts, folk performers, composers, writers, historians, classical dancers, puppeteers, musicians, sculptors. The selections across the arts field has been admirable. This Padma is a national honor that is highly coveted by so many and is certainly a high point for any professional in any sphere of life. A total of 33 artists were recognized for this honor, and a moment when India's soft power, sometimes relegated to a footnote, moved into the national spotlight. The month ended with a grand show of 5,000 folk artists across 45 art forms who covered the entire long stretch of the Grand Boulevard Kartavya Path in New Delhi on January 26th, India's 76th Republic Day. A colorful and exuberant show titled Jayati Jaya Mama Bharatam was conceived by the Sangeet Natak Academy. Apart from the military show of strength that has become a tradition on January 26th, it is a cultural segment that is eagerly looked forward to. Every year, designers and choreographers are hired for this mammoth task. Artists rehearse in the freezing winter from 3 a.m. in the morning. This year, the National School of Drama, NSD, designed nearly 75 props, including instrument decorations, floral elements, muppets, puppets, and other traditional craft elements that brought a carpet of color to Kartavya Path. Normally, smaller groups perform in a loop while walking down the long stretch. This year, the number of performers was expanded so considerably that all 5,000 artists could be seen simultaneously by every member of the audience. The television imagery was incredible to watch, and the aerial shot was like a long and never-ending carpet of color. Kudos all around. An interesting footnote for all regional and linguistic chauvinists. Today, Bharatanatyam is considered a Tamil art form. The image of the Bharatanatyam dancers used at every opportunity to stamp the regional specialty of my home state. Likewise, every Indian state claims its own classical and folk style to boast about. The general opinion is that Udupi, a region in Karnataka, is the naval center for the popular foods idli, dosa, sambar and vade. While Tamil Nadu and Karnataka battle fiercely for the ownership of these dishes, a historical detail blows the theory wide open. In the fascinating book called The Tamils by Nirmala Lakshman, a chapter on the Maratha rulers of Tanjavur reveals this surprising nugget of information. It was during the period in the 17th, 18th and 19th century that arts and culture flourished. The Carnatic music trinity Dikshitar, Shama Shastri and Tyagaraja, as well as the Tanjavur quartet Ponnaya, Chinnaya, Sivanandan and Vadivelu, created and composed. Now, King Sambhaji, 1657 to 1689, a Marathi-speaking aesthete and gourmand, missed the sour taste of kokum in his native Maharashtra. Instead, he discovered tamarind, puli, as a suitable substitute, and hence the name Sambar, named after His Royal Highness King Sambhaji. That's how Sambar was born. So, the proverbial South Indian Sambar has Maharashtrian roots. Just like Bharatanatyam flourished under the linguistic domination of Telugu and Marathi over local Tamil in the royal capital of Tanjavur. Now, how's that for a marvelous mosaic? My point is, nothing is absolutely pure. Or as we say in India, pure. There is a delicious mix and a polyglot of influences across cuisine and culture in India. That is what makes our nation and our civilization so fabulous and so layered that it confounds simplistic analysis or algorithms. You're listening to Anita Says, a podcast about Indian dance. Let's now talk about the skewed economic disgrace of the performing arts. After 5 sold-out concerts in India, the British rock band Coldplay has many reasons to celebrate. Chris Martin, lead singer, was photographed dipping into the Ganga at the MahaKumbh. At an average ticket price for his concerts at 10,000 rupees and a total of 400,000 seats sold. Right? 4 lakh seats sold. Now, you can do the math. As one observer noted on his Instagram handle, 300 years of colonization and 78 years after independence, we have just paid a Brit 400 crore rupees. Place this against the appalling economics of Indian dance. Thousands of talented dancers are languishing as they wait for a life of dignity and decency. Free performances inside the auditorium, but the same audiences are willing to pay for the refreshments in the canteen outside? Do we not see this anomaly, this disgraceful imbalance? When will this ever change? Why are people so reluctant to buy a ticket for a dance performance in India? I think that it starts with the dancers and musicians themselves. Just because these artists are part of a production does not mean that automatically their parents or their entire family can attend free of charge. For every ticketed show, a performing company is assigned a certain number of complimentary seats by the organizer. A large show of 10 to 15 artists may get up to 4 passes. Anything extra has to be purchased. It is up to the discretion of the artistic director who those comps are distributed to. Now, why is that not simple to understand? At almost every performance, I am handed an account of family members of dancers and the orchestral team who have just walked in saying, I'm the father, mother, spouse, sister, cousin of XYZ. The organizer does not want to cause a scene, and hence several freeloaders just walk in. Every artist in the show gets paid, and yet these very same artists are reluctant to purchase tickets for their own family members, expecting the artistic director to foot the bill. And the ticket cost is normally so minimal, it's what they would pay for a dosa and a cup of coffee. So how is this basic value system not taught at home or by the gurus in class? I know now of several gurus who add a compulsory extra amount to the class fees to automatically include ticket purchases for the dancer's family and friends when the company performs. Or for every performance, every dancer on stage and every student in the dance academy has to buy 2 tickets for the show. This way, the economics is addressed without added explanations. These ongoing questions and moments of exasperation were all cast aside by the sheer exuberance and enthusiastic response that Nachiyar Next received at Chennai's Jharna Festival, produced by Bharata Kalanjali and the Dhananjayans. The legend of Andal resonated so beautifully with the audience, many returning to watch the show for a 3rd, 4th, and 5th time. This 16-member ensemble with a live all-female orchestra has been in our active repertoire since 2019. We have started 2025 with a rousing reception with more shows on the calendar. The word-of-mouth reputation and Nachiyar Next's aura has not dimmed, and the dancers, who are now a completely new team, have thrown themselves with enthusiasm into the multi-layered work. To see wet cheeks at the end, a long and sustained standing ovation, and so much love showered on every artist is reward enough for the commendable teamwork. Sri V.P. Dhananjayan, still upright and in good spirits, was all praise for the performance, as was his dignified partner, Shanta Akka. We ended the night with our hearts singing. And on this high note, I say adieu. Stay well, healthy, in a positive state of mind. February has both Basant Panchami and Valentine's Day. Cupid and Saraswati arrive, one stirring the heart, the other the mind. Let every breath be like a dance. Until next time, send us your comments and suggestions, share this podcast, tell your friends about us. This is Anita Ratnam, and this brings us to the end of the February edition of Anita Says. Thank you so much for listening.